Welcome to a special first time that I'm wearing this shirt, auctioning it for $1 million, and last time that I'm wearing these double trouble socks. Yours truly. They got some holes in it, so I'm auctioning them for $1 million, and grateful, thankful my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. So just cooked a little bit of that good bacon. Thank you, farmers, butchers, truckers on the road, always LOV, 24/7 rock and roll for the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers. Always rock and roll for the nurses, the butchers, the bakers, the truckers. Always rock and roll for the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, workers on the road. This independent aspect, we got at HFA, high functioning hospital. So I recommend the book. If you're a fellow neurodivergent, recommend this book. Very, very good. Appreciating Asperger's syndrome, appreciating Asperger's syndrome, appreciating Asperger's syndrome is a very good book for anybody who has the will to understand and is a situation where you have a friend or know somebody who is affected by this neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, also known as HFA, high functioning autism. And for the past 44 months, because I've been diagnosed for several years by several different people that I have HFA, high functioning autistic, also known as Asperger's. So it's a great book. Again, appreciating Asperger's syndrome, just finished, and I gotta give it back, and it's a loan. So yours truly gonna recommend it, and encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice, and is my holy trinity of course, characteristics and special interests, which I'm dedicated for the past more than 7 years in involvement in independent work in geopolitics. I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who is proud to say that I predicted what's happening now in international conflagration back in 2019, and I have proof of work for that. For the first time I'm auctioning this shirt that I'm wearing, in a nice shirt, one of the best I ever got as a gift, and it's super nice. The first time that I'm wearing it as we start 2025 on this new session. Got Tisane, and last time I'm going to wearing these socks, because got new socks tomorrow to wear for the first Monday of 2025, and encourage you all to work out, train, exercise. Gonna get some rock and roll, start some little bit of rock and roll, because rock and roll is my special interest and one of my obsessive interests, also known as special interest. I do not use the appellation obsessive interest, because obsessive, it has a more negative connotation, but for aspies like myself, we're super concentrated, super dedicated when we are involved in working in those specific areas of interest, which can be super focused, super concentrated, and super intense. And that's just how Asperger's is a neurological mental divergent condition, and that's my holy trinity. It's 24/7 geopolitics, the study, the analysis of geopolitics, geopolitical theoretical analysis, and of course dancing and is my favorite sport, or sports and fitness. Go 49ers, please. NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, please reduce the cost of the tickets by 44.9%, as I calculate, estimated the cost to be reduced for the majority of the population to still enjoy the sports would need to be reduced by 44.9%, estimated reduction of the price of the ticket. So that's a call of the heart from this financially struggling but grateful, thankful. It is 5th of January, Sunday, first Sunday. Grateful, thankful that my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and actually made a little bit of plate. Is gonna be my plate I'm gonna show off after this workout for the dinner. I made a nice plate. Thank you for the bacon, the farmers, and for those, of course, salad. I made a salad. I put a little bit of hummus, and for the bread, I got to thank, salute, sing some rock and roll for the bakers, putting them in the oven. With the wheat, and those grains up in the seeds. That I got a little bit of that. So gotta be eating. Super important for food production, and to implement my trinity of theories, which I'm calling the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Debt Fusion Theory, and the Democratic Fusion Theory. My trinity of theories, paradoxically, for the North American collective, or what I call as a philosopher, the great North American civilizational complex, because we constitute together Quebec, Canada, this Quebecer, Canadian, North American, who is believed, of course, that North America is going to unite in a similar situation parallel to the European Union, similar integration parallel to the European Union, but with North American characteristics. And fundamentally, my dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. So please, billionaires, give some charity. So I'm grateful, thankful. I got some food, and gotta give some LOV to the firefighters. LOV to the firefighters. Please millionaires, billionaires, finance the firefighters a good massage therapy session. I've been craving a massage therapy session ever since, more than 5 years, when I survived COVID back in 2020. And of course, firefighters and the nurses, public workers, so those who pick up the garbage, gonna pick up the garbage tomorrow, gonna pick up the recycling, and later on the week during the third service in the public sector is gonna be picking up the compost, of which myself I worked a few years ago on the compost project. And here I am, androgynous, pansexual, rainbow dragon, independent artist, athlete, philosopher, centrist. My centrism is tied hand in hand with my trinity of theories, the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, debt fusion theory, and the DFT, the democratic fusion theory. That trinity of theories is calling to be implemented by the fourth dimension, love. Because, my brothers and sisters, as much as I understand peace through strength, we cannot base everything on strength. We cannot base everything on strength. We cannot base everything on strength. We gotta have some LOV, some LOV and redemption, some second chances. I got my own second, third chances. I live with scars on the body, even on I discussed it in the past, my androgynous. So watch out, because it's a bit 16 plus-ish, 18 plus-ish, certain topics. I'm gotta be advising people that sometimes I discuss things of a geopolitical nature, which are more rough, are more for an adult audience, audience. So if I discuss LGBTQ being part of the Rainbow Nation and part of the LGBTQ community myself, I always rock roll for my fellow Rainbow Nation, my fellow homosexuals and gay and lesbians. We got to get that LOV with it, but that's just part of one of myself as an individual, part of the collective Quebecer Canadian North American. North America here is North Americans Unite, and I propose my solutions on the table, and I'm not perfect, far from it. I'm just financially stressed now, but overall I'm joyous. I'm joyous, but just financially stressed, and my rent's paid. I'm grateful for this place here underground, room off St. Temple. I moved from a moldy place, and I love to go to the mountain, Mount Royal. When I go to Mount Royal, the mountain there, and the mountain on the Hawk Island, Montreal, big metropolis city, there where I reside, in this life and in another past life incarnation, where sometimes I was born a man or woman, now you get 50-50, but on the mountain, Mount Royal, I just love to go there and meditate, and it's like my second home, and I've been marching there, because my marching dance workouts, I've been successfully completed. I set 225 successfully completed in 2024, and I'm glad to report that this financially struggling, independent, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist, I marched more than the generals of NATO combined during COVID. I marched more than the generals of North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and more than the generals of the free world, maybe even the United States, Canada combined. The generals I marched, put me in more marching steps, auctioning those boots, which I wore for about more than 44 months, and now they got holes in it. So I love to march and dedicate my marches, of course, and dedicate this video to those who made less than 50,000, those who made less than 50,000, because it's financially stressful these days, and many of us, and me, I had many employment opportunities and work jobs and part-time, a few months, a few weeks during the COVID period, which now is kind of ending, and I did have COVID. I survived. I'm just gonna go take a look, because expecting some I'm just gonna go take a quick peek at the door. So we'll be back in less than 44 seconds, maybe less. So I'm going to prepare that Tisane instead of coffee, because I already had coffee, and I had good coffee. Thank you to my anonymous friend who, if I make $1 million, $1 billion, I'm going to give half, 50%, 50% half, without any doubt, for every million, every billion. Although today I'm $10,000 in debt, but I paid my rent, paid the electricity bill, go Hydro-Quebec, go. Got to give a salutation to Hydro-Quebec, workers of the 20th century, who built those dams, more than 63 dams across La Belle Province, Quebec, Canada, here to have clean, zero pollution, zero emission energy. I got to see my thesis with the beginning of 2023 was the privilege of civilization. My thesis at the beginning of 2023 was the privilege of civilization, and civilization is a privilege to have the electricity, Hydro-Quebec, clean, zero pollution, zero emission, that way, which by I cooked with. I cooked, when I was speaking of cooking, I just gonna go double check real quick, if I turned off all the oven, just double check. I think I did, because I just finished cooking about 5 just before I started this video. So just for security, fire hazard and all that, I'm gonna go check if it's completely turned off, the oven. Actually, the stove tops, I use the stove top to cook that bacon. So you're gonna bear with me a few seconds and just do some stretches while I'm gone. Stretch a little bit while I'm gone. Just stretch, meditate on world peace, you know. So here I am. I'm gonna get a little bit of that, but before I do, I want to, of course, revise a little bit of my work, and I gotta send some LOV, you know, to those who made less than 50,000 in last year, 2024, as we just began the first week of 2025. Today's the first Sunday of 2025. Tomorrow's gonna be the first Monday. So tomorrow I'm gonna do big laundry, big cleaning, restructuring my room office and temple. I wanna minimalize just before Trump's official inauguration of the 20th. It's gonna be 3 Mondays. Tomorrow, Monday the 6th, Monday on the full moon the 13th. A lot of dancing in it and cleaning, and on the 20th in the morning. So mornings. Monday, 3 Mondays. So I'm auctioning 93% of everything that I own here. 93% to give 50% half to my anonymous friend, and I will my will to build. I will to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Forgotten Goddess, GODDSS, because, you know, I've been in a lot of trauma, I've been depressed, suicidal, like cross Canada, coast to coast. That event in 2017 made me realize how many things we have in common, and such a great country, so many things to visit. So I established a strong esprit de corps, a strong esprit de corps, my fellow Canadians, Quebecers, I consider you my family, Canadians as well. And since I was born in the USA 3 times, post 76, twice served in the United States Army, was born a man, once a woman, and 156 years apart, different wars, same U.S. Army. I served in the United States Army, so now it's for that Dragon Army, Public-Private Partnership, calling the North American Union, the creation of the universal exchange and a common currency, a common passport, and of course via the implementation of my DRT, debt refusion theory. DRT, debt refusion theory, paradoxically, is the only solution now where we are in 2025. The DRT, the debt refusion theory, the solution on the table, parallel to trillions of kisses I got by the twins created from the goddess. So a lot of people credit their having survived being depressed, having survived myself being surprise attack and hit my head on the floor, had a dislocated shoulder, arm, and I went to the hospital. They replaced it. I was given some medication. I was like in a coma. I had my own Cillian Pirate episode, and here I am, happy, joyous, and I'm going to credit my survival and my continuing work to the goddess, GODDSS, because, you know, that's how I got a balance, and I will to build the Forgotten Goddess, GODDSS temple, but I got to salute, because the construction workers with the know-how on steel toes, with the brains and the muscle, they're the ones who are going to build it on the cranes, even this building, you know. Construction workers, rock and roll, mortgages aside, and financialization and financial blah 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 jargon aside, of construction workers rock. I always got a little bit of a crane fetish, you know. When I see cranes, I kind of get a little bit of that questioning and about the dimensions, the size, where the crane was built, and all those technical aspects, which I don't know fully, but I just have a thing for cranes, you know. I'm a little bit for cranes. I just like cranes, you know, the cranes that build up, because they enable the building of big buildings, and of course they permitted the building of skyscrapers, which we need to build more in Montreal. And my favorite is the one with that pyramid, and I will to build the pyramid, House of the Dragon, scarlet, red, crimson, scarlet, red, crimson, scarlet, red, crimson, red, crimson. Well, scarlet and crimson are shades of red. And with that, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-U.S. border, and I am challenging Donald Trump still. I still have those gloves, you know, the gloves here. I'm going to show off a little bit of the gloves, and before I go check a little bit outside yet, because waiting for some delivery. So here it is. I got these gifts about 6 years ago in 2018, when I first, actually before that era, I just came out of being depressed and suicidal, and I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017. In August, went to British Columbia, Vancouver, and then in September went to Nova Scotia, Halifax. 25 hours and 44 minutes. I got the tickets, still the bus tickets, and I went by bus with my anonymous friend, and then I went to Halifax in September, and I still got those tickets. That changed my whole life, and since then I've written a theoretical paper about an initiative, a public-private partnership to mass finance tourism, integral tourism across North America, for mass wellness for the general population, to mass finance tourism. And of course, I got these gloves. I started first entering politics in 2018, when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, when Donald Trump imposed tariffs 10% on Canadian aluminum aluminum and steel. Canadian aluminum and steel is Canadian aluminum and steel. You know, that's when the first time that I entered politics was that time. After 2018, in about spring, Donald Trump and an administration imposed tariffs of 10% aluminum and steel, 10% tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, and now is the threat of 25%, which is way more, and it's a quarter. 25% is a quarter. 25% is a quarter, 25 cents. And of course, that's what it is for the imposition, of course, of the tariffs, which we gotta avoid. And I have been since then still challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border, So public-private partnership, Democratic Republic of North Americans unite. Let's build a North American People's Imperial Coliseum. Billionaires, millionaires, give some charity. Finance the firefighters, some massage therapy sessions. Finance the nurses at the public. Finance those who pick up the garbage. Public sanitation workers pick up the compost. And we gotta put a 10% interest rate on all loans thereafter by the imposition of the DRT, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the universal exchange unit, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit. And here we are auctioning these gloves. I work out a lot in them, so I lost between 80 pounds and 93 pounds, and I did a lot of workout in them. So I'm auctioning them for $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, to give 50%, pay my $10,000 debt, So here they are, and I'm gonna still wear them for the, although they've been a little bit damaged. There's a damage need to sew. I think I got a sewing kick, so in the coming days, weeks, I'm gonna sew just before the inauguration. So let's fight before 19th of January on the Canadian-US border. Me and Trump, 19th of January on the Sunday. Me and Trump is on the Sunday, and start laying the first bricks for the North American People's Imperial Coliseum. Because first in 2018, I started calling for the building of the North American Steel and Aluminum Rink, joint steel and aluminum of the U.S., and I gotta go see it at the... No, baby, I kept checking. It's cold out. I'm making a video. You can have food.
Don't empty anything.
I just put them on the counter.
Maybe we're gonna put the inventory. I don't like this. They only took off at 11:49 from the Lachine depot. Lachine is on his way here. The depot, you know, down there in the industrial area. And this is here. You could have stopped here first. I don't know how they organize themselves. Maybe they do it on their way back with their truck. Thanks for the food.
No problem. All the bacon there is left for you. No, I checked. The light was off. I checked the heat. No problem. So all the bacon is yours. I'm gonna be busy for the next hour. I'll come do math at 6. Okay. Okay. So that was my friend, anonymous friend, and you know, that's what it is with that. And here I'm gonna put a little bit of honey in my tisane. I'm gonna start drinking. I'm getting thirsty, but there's not a lot left. See, this, but I'm scraping because I don't want to waste because honey is expensive. So this is Quebec honey. I recommend it. Quebec, Canada is Lambert. So North American, whatever. When I say local, usually it's North American Integree, because I am pretty much a Quebecer, Canadian, North American, Canadian, Quebecer, North American, Canadian. You know, I got Canada tattooed there. Don't ask me when and how and who tattooed, because I don't know the history of my tattoos. I don't know. I just, with a retrograde amnesia and memory loss, I remember mostly the past 7+ years. But besides that, I just remember moving here from a moldy underground place and some of those memory loss, like blackouts of memory. So don't ask me where, how it got the tattooed Canada there, but it says Canada, maple leaf, and gotta get it on. When I go to the mountain, I get flashes of reincarnations. And my work in the past 7 years, I did a lot of work and written tens of thousands of pages of philosophy, geopolitical, theoretical analysis, of which I'm dictating and I'm orally discoursing online. As this today is the 5th of January, 2025. Although financially stressed, I gotta get that honey. See the honey there? They got the honey pasteurized, and it's Quebec. I gotta thank the bees first. This is bees, and the workers, so those who involved in groceries and all those farming across Canada, in the wheat, the barley, the seeds, of course, all the growing of the poultry, the bacon, the eggs, the cheese. Gotta give some love. We got great cheese here in Quebec, so we gotta create a common currency, a common passport. And of course, I'm asking for the great North American census, the great audit and census of the North American Collective of North America, a great audit and census of North America. Pardon? Okay, no problem. So I gotta scrape it a little bit, like that. See, there's just a little bit I gotta scrape, but it's better. Maybe I'm even gonna put in, you know what? I don't want to make a mess. So the next round that I'm gonna heat some water, I'm just gonna put in, and I got a little bit of honey. So a little bit of honey is good. And we gotta get it for the XYZ, and that's all we gotta get doing with that. That's all we gotta get doing with NYZ, and that's all we're gonna get doing for the love, and that's all we gotta get doing for the butchers, and those, of course, who gotta get it on the go, gotta get on the go. So that's all we gotta get doing with that. That's all we gotta get doing. Another one, got another 3 scoops, a little bit of honey. So yes, gotta salute the bees, and those. Imagine just all those works and all those flowers, local here from Quebec, Canada, to get it from the and to get it, the labor to get it and to pack it in the jar, so it's a lot of work to do this stuff, so gotta be mindful, labor just like construction workers. And I love work, especially the independent work that I do. Although now I'm just open for commissions and donations. Thank you again. I gotta give a salutation to a fellow more than 6 months ago already, an fellow Aspie give me the first donation, $25.44. So salute $25.24, and that's what it is with that. And we got the bees and the honey here, and I scheduled it for another cleaning because I'm not gonna waste this. It's not gonna waste. I'm just gonna put hot water and mix it later and just drink it. Just drink it because it's -12, so it's gonna be good for the health. So let's go rock and roll now. I'm gonna do discussing a little bit of I'm just gonna discuss my journey a little bit on the fitness journey when I commenced and when I started my workout training program system. And I gotta give a shout out. Actually, this is what I'm drinking now. It's something which I found in the neighborhood of NDG not a few weeks ago necessarily, just a few days ago even. It was like a rainy, warm day for December, and I found this. I salvaged it. It was about to get crushed by the car. So it's grown with love in the Roland garden. Organic herbal tea. So that's what I'm having. Organic herbal tea. See, organic herbal tea. It's written there, and it was grown here in NDG Notre Dame de Grace in Montreal. And I worked a few years ago on different urban farming. So I have some years of experience in urban farming, grown own lettuce and own beans and own tomatoes, of which I harvested myself and I ate, and it was pretty edible and good. It was pretty edible. So I got some experience farming, but farming at the urban level. So this is what it is. So my experience in the urban farming, but I never farmed organic tea, organic tisane, herbal tea. It says organic herbal tea, and this is grown with love. It says grown with love, which is good. So that's what I salvage it. I actually kind of stepped on it. I was looking, what is that bag, and I almost stepped on it. Then I picked it up because I saw there was something in it, and it was two packs like this tisane. So that's what it is. So I put it inside, and this is the herbal tea. So I actually retrieved it. It was about to get smashed by, like, people were already walked on it, and it was about to get smashed by the rain, and it was gonna be like destroyed by the nature, or even, of course, pedestrians, or even it's gonna go blown by the wind inside because I was close by the cars where the cars pass, when a car circulation on the road. So it was gonna be, if I wouldn't have saved it, it would have been crushed by the car, and the pack would have just went all over the place from inside, right? Because if the would have passed on it with a car, it would have been totally shattered, and it would not been able to be consumed. So I salvaged it, and here I am consuming it and meditating, and not bad, not bad, not bad. It's not bad at all. It's kind of mild, but it's not bad. It has a good taste. Has a good taste. So rock and roll. Gonna discuss a little bit of the geopolitical situations, and of course, as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, my neurodivergent condition of Asperger's makes me like many Aspies, but I'm an individual with Asperger's. So we have special interest. So when it preoccupies our daily routines and habits and rituals. So for more than like 7 years, it's been the trinity with me: geopolitics, the study, the analysis of geopolitics, fitness and sports. Dancing is my favorite fitness activity, and sports dancing is my favorite sport. I just dance. I can dance for hours, and Rainbow Dragon gonna be that rock and roll. And the third one is rock and roll. I just love to sing rock and roll. Sometimes I go in rock and roll trances, and I just don't stop. You see many of my videos on the mountain, I just rock and roll in French, and create rock and roll songs on the daily. I basically get inspired, compose them, and I'm willing to write. But I sing vocal. I don't sing any instruments per se. But I create the lyrics. And I create the songs and the verbal songs with the vocabulary and the verbal songs of the rock and roll songs. So that's 24/7. That's just 24/7 with me, and it can be tough for people who don't understand it, because I am less able. I have, some call it disabilities, but it's not really disabilities in that sense. It's just that we are, as people with Asperger's, we're a part of a tiny minority of 0.44, less than half of a percent, less than 1% of the population with HFA, high functioning autism, and also known as Asperger's. So as an Aspie, I don't understand certain things in social interactions, and certain things we just don't get. We have trouble with, and we in certain societal norms, and the dialogue sometimes can be more difficult. The interactions, we get to breach personal space. We get close, too close, very close to certain people, individuals, when we discuss. So we have to manage. I have to myself included to just manage the characteristics, because it's not really symptoms. Symptoms are more for an illness, a symptom of an illness. Like when I had COVID in 2020 February, it was like death, pestilence, and disease. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. Death, pestilence, and disease. Sounds like a death rock and roll song, but that's how it felt like. And I thought right here on another bed, not this one. This is a new bed, but I thought I was gonna die. I said, that's it. I'm done. That's 2020 February, March. I'm dead. I'm dying. That's it. But it wasn't, and I survived. I got triple vaxxed, and continued my fitness journey, my marches, and created my own workout training program system just before COVID, paradoxically to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. Because back in 2019, I revered my work as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and it's daily, because daily events transpire in geopolitics. Geopolitics is daily events, new developments, new alliances, new programs, new speeches by the leaders, new diplomatic acts and diplomatic events. So geopolitics there's always events in geopolitics. So from today's geopolitical events, and the main focus for myself as a Quebecer, Canadian, North American, is the coming in Trump administration and the threat of imposing 25% of tariffs. 25% is a lot. Is a fourth. That's a lot on all goods this time. On all goods. But as I discussed, and I was bringing to memory that I was discussing with a friend the geopolitical analysis, and the part, of course, the union and whatever the Trump said, the great state of Canada, great state of Canada. I am for the North American Union parallel to the European Union, based on a public-private partnership, a centrist position that, of course, really is for the workers and for the majority, and rebuilding the North American infrastructure, and the North American inner urban cities. We got to rebuild the North American ghettos, brothers and sisters. The North American inner urban cities, the ghettos, we got to rebuild them. Mass invest in the North American inner cities, and mass invest in the ghettos. The billionaire class, the billionaire billionaire class, we have to mass finance fitness as well. Mass finance fitness, create the universal exchange in the mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise. Mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise. Mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise is something that I have written over the past years and continue to write, of course, in complementary to what I've written in the past on different USB keys in the past 7+ years since I started my fitness journey right after I crossed Canada coast to coast in September and August and September 2017. Has been more than 7 years, and that event got me out of depression, and I started working as a philosopher, independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. And geopolitics is a constant with yours truly, as is sports and fitness and sports. Dancing is my favorite sport, and rock and roll, that's my trinity, and that's for more than 7 years. Just work in the independent work in those areas, those fields. And I created an efficient, effective workout training program system which requires no equipment, which is of course not that easy to do, but which requires no equipment, and which is of course meant to increase general overall fitness. Meant to increase general overall fitness. It's not meant necessarily for aesthetics, but it's meant to go to, in the case where a population needs to be mobilized, a World War III event, a World War III scenario, international conflagration, which parallel to my scenario of 2019 in October, November, when I predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration, aka World War III. Of course, I got proof of work, because it's online on the videos, and I discuss it, and I discuss the World War III scenario. So basically, to summarize, that I predicted, due to the fact that many unresolved conflicts of the 20th century are going to be spilled over in the 21st century, there's going to be, of course, a restart, a refusion. But here, in those old conflicts from the 20th century, they're going to restart in the 21st century. So basically, that's what's happening in Russia-Ukraine. Russia-Ukraine is a conflict unresolved from the 20th century, especially during the more than 44 years, almost 45 years of the Cold War period, from 1947 to 1991, the Cold War from 1947 to 1991, from 1947 to 1991, from 1947 to 1991. That's a big area of the 20th century. Almost half of the century was the Cold War. So those conflicts date from that period of time. As of course in the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, Israel, Hamas, Israel, the Arab world, dates from the 20th century, those unresolved conflicts. And potentially China and Taiwan, the island of Taiwan is known as the ROC, officially Republic of China, while mainland China is known as the People's Republic of China, founded by Mao Zedong. So their conflict is a conflict from the 20th century, which after decades and decades now, of course, Xi Jinping's dictum and philosophy and his statements were that there's a unavoidable, not to misquote, but unavoidable reunification, or nobody can stop the reunification of China and Taiwan. That's basically the words, and something similar. I might be mistaken, and it can be not verbatim, word for word, but it's something similar in the paradoxical, of course, philosophies. And if you will, to discuss China, you have to come to the table and know that I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and I know the philosophies, and of course, you have to know a little bit about the governance of China. The governance of China is the volumes, of course, of Xi Jinping's thought, and where the philosophies of the People's Republic of China are laid out for what they're building, or what they call there, to make a summary, what the Chinese leadership and Xi Jinping at the helm of the Communist Party of China, the CCP, Communist Party of China, of course, the de facto leader, Xi Jinping, states to build a socialist spiritual civilization, or socialism with Chinese characteristics, or the spiritual socialist civilization, socialist spiritual civilization. But of course, for when myself as a rainbow dragon, I hear spirituality, my spirituality is also a matter of individual, because I don't know so many questions. I'm a mystic, want to be Telemite, bury me a Telemite with Papa Crowley up in New Jersey, and so many things I don't know. I do my sun salutations, and I sing to the moon when it's full and when it's new moon, half moon, and kisses from the goddess and nature. My spirituality is pretty rock and roll, embracing the body, and the body as well, and stuff like that, and so many things I don't know. But that means, of course, as a North American Canadian, when I say spirituality, it might not have the same meaning or relationship as an individual part of the collective as my fellow brothers and sisters in China, right? They're individuals, part of their collective, which is building the socialist spiritual civilization of China. Socialism with Chinese characteristics, just like myself, as an individual with Asperger's and neurodivergent Quebecer Canadian North American who believes in reincarnation like George Patton. George Patton was my wife in 2600 years ago, although his Three Glass Darkly poetry did not mention that he was born a woman, but sometimes he was born a woman, just like I was born a woman and a man in previous incarnation, past lives. And now you get that 50-50, you get that 50-50, 50-50, being androgynous. But that's another story. Just focus on something of my propositions and initiatives, and of course the philosophies and the geopolitical analysis. So basically, when my philosophies and initiatives are for what I call the North American collective, or the collective North American civilization. And my philosophy, the North American collective, or the North American civilization of collective, is that North America, we constitute an emergent civilizational complex, an emergent civilizational complex, which is not divorced, but is distinct. So it's not divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. So it's not divorced, but it's distinct from Western civilization. Not divorced, but distinct. Those are key, of course, which we gotta, of course, operate and meditate upon those, that it's not divorced, but it is distinct. So it has distinctive features and characteristics, but it's not divorced from Western civilization. But we have distinctive features, and of course the geography, the fact that we have two oceans, and we have a common historical purpose and destiny, because we're a new civilization, an emergent one, right? Is new compared to others, or very can be old, and whatever the case may be. I cannot pronounce myself fully. Of course, I know the ideologies, and I read The Governance of China over and over, and it's hundreds of pages of philosophies and theorizing and jargons which perhaps are lost in translation. Perhaps there's a loss in translation, right? There's some things which we cannot fully grasp, right? Like here in North, I'm a North American, I'm a Canadian Quebecer. I am for world peace, world peace, world peace. Of course, 100%. I can be universal. I was born from ancient Egypt and ancient Babylon, ancient throughout the world. Sometimes a man, a woman, ancient Roman Empire. But here I am today on the 5th of January, 2025, with myself being a Quebecer Canadian North American artist with Asperger's neurodivergence, who's making this YouTube video, financially stressed but grateful, thankful, and encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. And I gotta salute those truckers on the road. Thousands of truckers now, Quebec, Canada, Mexico, and the railway conductors. Got to give them some choo-choo train. Railway conductors. The railway conductors, those things, and infrastructure and food, and of course, electricity, they're open for potential sabotage. Sabotage for external foreign forces, of which we have taken certain positions, which we have made potential enemies in the past more than 5 years, because we're involved militarily, not only in a humanitarian manner, and we're involved diplomatically, not in only a humanitarian mind, but we have, not myself, I've not taken those decisions myself, of course, the leader, but I always say that it's freedom. Freedom is a new thing. I have freedom tattooed there, and from what I know, because I had it in a diary that I've written about my life somewhere, I have to clean up, and I don't know if I still have it, but I had it during COVID, and from events from my life, which I don't remember more than past like 7+ years. I have like blackouts of memory and live with scars and trauma, but my Asperger's, but I will for the defense, only defense. It has to be understood that my protocols and initiatives are strictly, foremost, and only, solely, SOLELY, solely and only for defense of what I call the collective North American civilizational complex. We're going to play defense like that hardball ball, which of course my 49ers lost to the Ravens, also known as the hardball ball, aka the blackout ball, aka the blackout ball, aka the blackout ball, hardball ball. So we're going to play that defense and got to integrate with my protocols and initiatives called, of course, which I've written over the past years, and the new 911 North American Civilizational Complex initiatives for the security, service, and defense integration of the citizenry. And of course, some of my documents and propositions and initiatives have long titles, but sometimes I can summarize them to the meaning and the purpose of them, because there is sometimes some purpose in certain things and initiatives which we have to implement, of course, as a citizen. Sometimes myself as a citizen financially struggling right here in Montreal, but grateful, thankful. I got some biscuits. I got I got a great dinner after this. I can watch a little bit of hockey or football and read a little bit of the book of the Asperger's, fully continue to work on my characteristics and be aware of my neurodivergence when interact with other citizens, and be aware, of course, that the neurodivergence makes me predisposed to certain interests and certain mannerisms and certain dynamics of the civilizational societal interactions that I do not fully understand, and many aspects of that problem, encounter that problem, to be that problematic, to get it on the problematic with those different characteristics. So that's why we got to live with it. Now I got to give a salutation to the railway conductors. Imagine we now have CPKC, Canadian Pacific Kansas City, Canadian Pacific Kansas City, Canadian Pacific, Canadian Pacific and Kansas City have merged in 2023, and they created a mega railway conduction. And of course now we can go all the way to Mexico. So that is a major North American feature. The integration of the railroad, the Canadian Pacific merging with Kansas City, is a major development in the further integration of the North American civilizational complex, of which Mexico of course is part of the North American civilizational complex, of the North American civilizational complex. And of course it's not distinct. We are not divorced, correction, but we are distinct from Western civilization. So those are two key features to feature on the development of the North American complex for security, service, and defense. And there's a lot of work we need to do, a lot of work in the public sector. And of course we got to get that public-private partnership. Fundamentally, my call is for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex across North America. The North American civilizational complex is of course an emergent civilizational complex which is not totally divorced but is distinct from Western civilization. So as we go on the rock and roll, I know I'm gonna give a little bit of an advice or a protocol or a directive. With consent, hygiene, hug like you never hugged before today. With consent, hygiene, hug like you never hugged before today. With consent and hygiene, hug like you never hugged before today. A period of football, gridiron, go, 49ers go. Gonna get that 15 minutes. 15 minutes is a quarter, that's 4 quarters. 15 minutes hug, pause, 15 minutes hug, pause, 15 minutes pause, take a pause and hug. 15 minutes, you got a hugging gridiron hug. And I could use a hug, I could use a massage therapy session, but you do it for me. And Hawkeye's HAWK, gonna say that LOV with consent and hygiene. That's what it is. Double trouble overtime with yours truly, Rainbow Dragon. Gonna discuss now the implementation of my Trinity of Theories, but first I'm gonna discuss the potential tariffs, and I'm gonna discuss it. I'm gonna put in a protocol, and I'm gonna say we'll discuss, because I was having a discussion with a friend, and the potential invasion of Canada, There's a paradox to this. The paradox is that we are part of NATO, the North Atlantic Trade Organization member countries, of which I've written a document starting about 7 years ago in my previous interaction with CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and the RCMP, of which in the past life I served about 42 months, right before it was named the RCMP, but in the security services of Canada in previous incarnations and throughout the world. Sometimes I was born a woman, a farmer, and a priestess of the goddess. Let's build the GODDSS, blah blah blah. The goddess forgot, blah blah blah. The Forgotten Goddess Temple. Let's build the Forgotten Goddess Temple on the Canadian-US border and the North American Citizen Integrated Complex, and let's get it for the XYZ, for the farmers, the butchers, and build more construction workers, and of course more food. Food security is such a super important topic and super important interest for myself. I have food security for the next 40 days, and I'm part of that 40 days / 44, 40 days / 44, 40 days / 44, right until Donald Trump's election. Of course, the first week of February, I got 2 rights running parallel: Scorpio, Lion, Scorpion, whatever the might be, with that 93 code for my 93 nation, those Telemites. And we got to get it for the North American Union here on the Mount Royal of the Belvedere Conjuranak. And I'm going to discuss now the implementation potentially coming of having tariffs implemented, and the potential discussion of the potential invasion, because one of my friends said, I hope the Canadian military is preparing, the Canadian military is preparing, and of course for a potential invasion. But now the paradox is, we cannot take it by force. My brother and sisters in the United States, if there would be an invasion from the east or from the west, and let's say the PLA, People's Liberation Army, or you get an invasion, as it was a part of my scenario that North America was surprise attack. As myself, I lived a surprise attack in the past, and I thought I was gonna die back then, but I survived. Thank you, Goddess. I'm gonna credit my survival to the Goddess GODDSS. But I would definitely cross the border and come join, and to help defend the United States. To help defense only. My protocols are for defense and for further extension of my philosophies which I've written over the past years for the North American NORAD NATO complex. NORAD is the North American Canada-US joint military alliance from the 50s. Canada NORAD, the defense of the aerospace. NORAD is Canada-US military alliance. NORAD is the Canada-US with the Cheyenne Mountain complex, and of course, blah blah blah. I'm calling for the building of 44 tunnels, the building construction of 44 tunnels, building of 44 tunnels in across Canada, US joint, of course, for the in case of a thermonuclear war, blah blah blah. In case of a thermonuclear war, in case of a thermonuclear war, in case of a thermonuclear war, to build 44 tunnels based on the Montreal Underground City, to build those tunnels based on the Canada and the United States, based on those, of course, Canada and the United States. In Canada and the United States built 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex. That's based on my theories and propositions of which I've written in the past. And of course, in case of a thermonuclear war, I've written a paper about 7 years ago, and I revised it during COVID when I had COVID, and in 2019. It was the initiative for a public-private partnership for the building construction of tunnel systems in case of a thermonuclear war. And building and construct the initiative public-private partnership citizen integrated initiative for the building of survival complex in terms for the continuity of North American civilizational complex, for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex. So gotta find it on USB keys, but it's basically the initiative to construct, build tunnels, and to stack them with food. And now that I'm speaking about food, I gotta find the one that I had set to when I had the sardines, when I said I'm gonna reach 300 sessions on my own creative workout training program, and I'm gonna reach 300 on my own creative workout program. I'm gonna have to find it. I think tomorrow when I'm gonna clean it, because I've written on it, and it has some stick on it, and it has some sticks on it, and I put a little bit of mark on it when I gonna reach 300. But since then I performed more than 372 on me, on my workout training program system, and that's what I did. And now I'm gonna present something that potentially in those tunnels we could stack them with. So we got this sardine we can stack them, and this is sardine, product of Canada. See, it's Kersen, Kersen, Kersen. See, that's what it is, Kersen, and that's what it is with that. That's Kersen, see, Kersen, and it's boneless Canadian sardines, and a source of omega-3, and we got it for that 200 grams. So we can stack like these sardines and other products, and of course whatever powder milk, we can stack it with powder milk, Canadian made, Canadian US, joint North American, and sardines like this. And this what I'm showing it is that it says Best Buy September 20th, 2029. So it says Best Buy September 20th, 2029. Best Buy September 20th, 2029. So it says Best Buy here. It's written small. Best Buy September 20th, 2029. So imagine that's 5 years. 5 years. And that's just not the expiry date. That's the best before date. That's not, make a distinction. So that's not the expiry date, that's best before date. So that's not the expiry date, that's the best before date. That's not the expiry date, that's not the expiry date, that's the best before date. That is not the expiry date, that is the best before date. That is not the expiry date. 2029, September 20th. But the best before, so it's still good, even a year, even after that, because I worked in a food bank, so I had learning educational practice, and to distinguish between when it's marked expired, EXP, and when it's marked best before. So best before, even after best before date, is still good. Expired date, there's a danger. But some things that says expired are still good for a week or 3 months, but depends on what product. You have to discern on what product. So these are, of course, sardines. Kersen, Canadian, Nova Scotia. Product of Canada, see? Product of Canada, see? Product of Canada. See? So these sardines, product of Canada, from Nova Scotia, Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. And it reminds me in 2017 when I went to Nova Scotia, I had a great time. And in 2017, in September, that's when I got out of being depressed and suicidal. I was depressed, suicidal, and that event changed my life. I established a strong esprit core. I started working out, training, exercising, written tens of thousands of pages of philosophy, and had many jobs, many employments. But a few months, a few weeks, due to my neurological divergent condition, people with Asperger's sometimes suffer from being misunderstood, and those typical dimensions of the neurotypical world compared to the neurodivergent minority like myself. And but nonetheless, if we build and construct those tunnels, we can stack them. But see, this is good for 5 years. So every year we would replenish. Every year it would be 5 years or 7 years, preferably 7 years. Things that are good for 7+ years. Things that are good for 7+ years. I'm calling from the blah 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 for the great North American 7 years NATO integrated North American complex for the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. For the next septennium, the public-private partnership, which is fundamentally my dream, is a call for a public-private partnership. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex across North America, from Montreal, Belvedere, Cognac, the leaders of the free world of NATO. Let's go support that North American NORAD, build the 44 tunnels and start building and stacking them with food such as this, sardines. So this I'm gonna be eating not soon, because I need to finish the other one when I marked it, of course, that it was best until 2024, but best before this, so it's still good. But that one, it was golden, and I have to eat it. Probably gonna eat it because now I have food. So probably tomorrow, or when Trump gets inaugurated, and start a new cycle of my own workout training program system, which I created back in 2019, which is simple, efficient, and effective, requires no equipment. And of course, I created this workout training program system to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, and it's called the General Integrated Whole Body Training System, the General Integrated Whole Body Training System, the General Integrated Whole Body Training System. And that's what I gotta do for the Dragon Army, the North American complex, the North American civilizational complex. See those sardines produced in Canada? Rock and roll. Gonna let you know how it is. Boneless Canadian. How many proteins? Let's check how many proteins. So proteins per 1/4 of can. So you gotta do the calculation. Per 1/4 of can, 1/4 of can, 50 grams is 50 grams. It has 200 grams. So it says protein per 1/4, that is 10 grams. 10 grams. So 10 times 4, that's 40. 10 times 4, that's 40. 10 times 4, that's 40 grams. So this is good after a workout, you know. I gotta check the price because this was donated. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for the donation. And I gotta say, go Curson company, go Curson. I gotta check the company because I don't know much about it. Curson. So that's an interjection on a more practical level. So hey, gotta give those sardine producers of Canada some LOV. See, that's why my citizens, my brothers and sisters, the MAGA Republicans, we disagree. I'm a centrist, I'm a pro-labor. Sometimes we disagree, but we're not enemies. Just like my cousin Trudeau, as much as maybe it's time for him to go, he's not my enemy. It's not my enemy, Trudeau. My uncle Legault, Prime Minister of Quebec, as much as I agree sometimes, he has some wisdom that I compensate, and I lack certain skills in the social skills and interaction. Perhaps I'm more awkward and weird, and I'm weird in certain things. But at the end of the day, maybe I disagree and I'm not a CAC member, but with some things I might agree. But he has a certain wisdom which I do not have, a certain experience which I do not have. So it's always complementary. At the end of the day, we're not enemies. We got common interests of the North American collective, especially here in Quebec, the French language. But I have to make an effort myself for French, you know, as a French speaker, Quebecer, Canadian, North American. I also have to put the input and say thank you when somebody makes an effort. And there's a certain way about it, you know, there's a certain way about it because we are 10 million Quebecers, you know, and we have a great culture, a great cuisine. It's not just Celine Dion and Armand Bombardier, you know, there's Quebec is a big place, and Montreal takes years to just visit Montreal, you know, and explore French culture and movies. And let's make Bon Cup, Bad Cup 3, the third part of Bon Cup, Bad Cup. That's how I rock and roll, by art and rock and roll and philosophies and certain things that I do not know, you know, I do not know. I mean, there's a diversity within Quebec in the smaller cities and big cities and La Madeleine and the 17 regions, but we can build more dams here together, more dams here together, more dams here together, you know. We're not enemies, we're complementary. And of course, to my black brothers and sisters, blacks, you know, who constitute 13.3, 13.4%, my neighbors included, of the population, sometimes we got to work with something on the table against racism. It's possible that we have it, subconscious dynamics, you know, we moved, we have certain lusts or certain feelings, or we had experiences with certain individuals in a certain way, and then we tend to associate or generalize, stereotypes, or whatever the case may be, you know. So that's what we made it so far together. North Americans better unite and play some sports, do some sports, share on the table, put on the table, and we gotta make exchange, and we can do better, you know, for the less well off financially, you know. But it's also work and reward and compensation, you know, and encouragement to fitness and sports activity. And we gotta rebuild a lot, you know. The infrastructure of North America, the bridges, the highways. We gotta mass invest in the North American collective and build those 44 tunnels, you know, 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. You know, to my black brothers and sisters, I put on the table, I put to everybody else. Hugs and kisses and money I don't have, but open for business on the table, you know, and we gotta channel those and work together. Here, North Americans, we're North Americans, we gotta have some redemption. Second chances, I had my own second chances, third chances, you know, and for my brothers and sisters also, who lost their liberty, you know, who lost their liberty. Started writing a theoretical paper, the North American Citizen Integrated Criminal Rehabilitation Act, the North American Citizen Integration Criminal Rehabilitation Act, the North American Initiative for the Criminal Rehabilitation Act, with certain dynamics and certain spheres, but nonetheless, you know, we can make something and arrange a compromise and give some work, give finance some mass fitness, and we can have some joy and some rebuilding together, you know, because we got to invest in security, yes, security, but liberty also. As much as I understand, because I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who predicted an international conflagration, I understand peace through strength. I understand the philosophy, but there has to be a counterbalance. We cannot just have strength, peace through strength. It has to be some LOV, some understanding, some love, you know, some LOV. I hope somebody making love now. I know the youth, 15, 16-year-olds, you know, they're innocent. The youth, the children are innocent. The children are innocent. The children are innocent. I know the ego side, all that money, billionaires. I would give 10% if I would have 44 billion. I would give 10%. That would be 4.4 billion. 4.4 billion. I would have went after Trump got elected on the 6th of November. I would have went and distributed to North Americans with a hoodie on in Canada, 50,000. I said, I would have whispered, this is your second chance. This is my redemption, 50,000 to men, women, black, white, homeless, vulnerable, 50,000. I would have said, recommend you use this money well, get your second chance, get clean, or stop doing whatever you're doing, the hard drugs or whatever. Get a hotel room, motel, get an apartment for a year, start working out, training. This is 50,000. This is your second chance. This is my redemption. I would have given 10% of 44 billion. 44 billion, a billion has 9 zeros, is 9 billion, so 44 billion is 9. And so sure, billionaires only made it because of a lot of workers. Billionaires only made it, millionaires also because of a lot of workers. So it's time to share 2025. Don't be so selfish. To artists and athletes who make millions of dollars a movie, millions of dollars a movie, millions of dollars a movie, millions of dollars a year, millions of dollars a year on the contract of that football, hockey, baseball, NBA, National Basketball Association, basketball. Please give 10% 2025. Start now. Reduce the cost by 44. Start tomorrow, Monday the 6th. Start tomorrow. Give some charity across North America. 10% of every million. And help support build the Forgotten Goddess GODDSS temple, because I credit my survival to the goddess. And the goddess is in the Bible. It's there. The goddess is there. The different names of different goddesses, great goddess, whatever. I'm a piece of dust at the end of the day. But this piece of dust who lost his rainbow, who's financially stressed but grateful, joyous, rock and roll 24/7, wills to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the Goddess Temple on the Canadian-US border, parallel hand in hand to the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, you know, and I play a rainbow, black, white, and rainbow 24/7. If you want a LOV, consent, hygiene with me, rock and roll. I'm on the mountain, Montreal Metropolis, 2.5 million people. I go often to the mountain, Mount Royal. Pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance, friends with benefits only. And sometimes I can be more, kind of seem abrasive, and I'm using the words from the book because something things we don't know, but we can be pretty direct. As we can be pretty direct, and we don't mean to offend, you know, we don't really mean to offend. It's just that our neurodivergence makes us different, you know, different divergence. So, and it's not that we lack compassion or empathy, it's just that we show it by action. So we show our compassion and empathy by action. If you're sore, if you're whatever, you need something and I could offer physically or not money-wise because I don't have, but if I would be in the position or whatever the case would be, I would definitely offer, you know, or whatever else might be more adult stuff with massages and washing feet and massages after a workout if a friend can afford it, you know, stuff like that. So that's just Asperger's, you know. So the coming Trump administration, the imposition of 25 tariffs, that seems like a big mistake right here, because of course it's going to affect the consumers, citizens, the citizen consumers. 25% is a quarter. 25% is 25 cents out of a dollar, 25 cents out of a dollar, 25 cents out of every dollar. That is what 25% is, percentage. It's 25 cents per dollar. It's a fourth, a quarter. It's a fourth, a quarter. That is never heard of that before, and we have to try to avoid it. And of course, I am for the North American Collective. My initiatives are fundamentally public-private partnership based for the creation of a common passport, common currency, economic integration, and security-wise, and secure liberty. And as much as I understand peace through strength, we gotta have some LOV, and you cannot just base our civilization, although strength is required in security and defense and force, yes, but now they're going to take by force. And I was going to discuss, of course, my friend said a potential invasion, and said that hope the Canadian military is preparing. And of course, I'm not in charge. I developed my own theories, and of course, I developed a military theory, and from I have a documents from, I don't remember personally because I lost some memory, but from high school I have a documentation where I will to go to the military college. So anyways, I have developed a military theory, military strategic stratagem in the past years called the T. I'm not going to discuss it much because I put this public online. So the T, total mobile defense theory, total mobile defense theory, total mobile defense theory, T, total T, total mobile DT, TMDT, but only for defense. So that has to be understood. It's only for defense, non-interventionist outside the North American Collective. And based on my another theoretical paper, which I've written about 7 years ago in my interaction with CSIS, was of course when when the when the Islamic State terrorism started being in the news. And that's kind of where my memory before those events, because I correlate them with the arisal of the Islamic State, and before my life, before the arrival on the news and as a geopolitical entity and part of geopolitics even now, the Islamic State, also known as ISIS, although I do not use word ISIS because of the goddess GODDSS and the Islamic State. So that's kind of where my memory goes, from that era, 2015, and to here, so anyways, so the coming of the Trump administration we have to avoid, and of course it cannot be taken by force, of course, because paradox, because I was saying to a friend, Canada and US were part of a NATO alliance. It makes me think of a theoretical paper for the NATO complex that I've written over the past years, and I revised it, and I have to find it in USB keys. It was called something, a long title, academic scholarly title, called the Citizen Integrated Initiatives for the Reconciliation with Pacific Peaceful reconciliation with non-NATO member diaspora communities. The citizen integration strategy and protocols for the peaceful reconciliation with non-NATO member diaspora communities. The the citizen integrated public-private partnership initiative for the peaceful reconciliation with non-NATO member diaspora communities. So it's for NATO integral, the integral NATO complex. NATO being North Atlantic Treaty Organization states, NATO. But paradoxically, of course, Ukraine was not part of NATO. Ukraine is not part of NATO. Israel either. Israel neither is part of NATO. Nor is Taiwan, of course. NATO just joined the 32nd. It was Sweden. Sweden was the last member. A lot of countries from the Eastern Bloc who are communist socialists are part of NATO. Bulgaria, Romania, and other countries. Poland was, and of course Germany united, but Poland was part of the Warsaw Pact. Poland was communist, Poland was communist. Poland was a communist socialist state. Poland, before 1989 November. But they had peaceful revolutions. All the other countries, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, the war came after. But in 1989, I mean, only one that was violent and kind of almost went into a civil war was Romania. Romania almost went into a civil war because they had executed their dictators on the 25th of December. They executed a couple, Nicolae Ceausescu and Elena. They had got executed on the 25th. On the 25th of December, the military tribunal, they executed them. 1989. December 25th, 1989, they executed them. So that was a bit on the different side. So this neurodivergence is, of course, part of me knowing and working in geopolitics on the daily. And I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst. I can go on, and see. Even now, I control my tendency to just go in the Cold War and just revise Cold War events of the 20th century and make a parallel to the 21st century. And of course, now we have to focus on today. Carpe diem, and as I live it since I survived COVID, on today is all I really have. And I have hope for tomorrow, but today now is all I really have. Survive COVID. I'm going to switch to that French because we're in liable, but gotta be grateful for today. And of course, I will to build the forgotten goddess temple, the North American Imperial People's Coliseum, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the North American Imperial People's Coliseum, and of course the House of the Dragon, the Red Scarlet House of the Dragon, and that's what I will to build. And here I am in the Montreal Hawk Island discussing the geopolitical arrival of Donald Trump. So somebody has mentioned the potential invasion, but the paradox is that the United States, in theory, cannot take Canada by force. A military invasion of the United States Army in Canada, right? Because Canada is part of NATO, so we're part of the same military alliance. So if Canada, if that would, let's say, hypothetical scenario, if that were to happen, then all the NATO countries, Germany, France, and pardon. So that would be the paradox, because NATO is 32 countries now with Sweden, 32 countries now with Sweden. So that's what it is, 32 countries with Sweden, So that would be, if a hypothetical scenario, the United States, Trump would give the order for the generals to proceed with a military invasion of Canada by force, to take Canada by force, That would mean that, of course, that would mean that NATO would have to get involved, NATO would have to get involved.
Oh, he needs a picture. Can I ask you to squeeze some fingers? Thanks so much.
NATO. So NATO would have to get him. NATO would have to be, NATO would have to get involved. NATO would have to be involved, NATO, would have to be involved. So NATO countries would have to, because Article 5 would be somehow involved. Article 5. So that's the paradox of that military alliance, unless somehow Trump dissolutes. But even then, because if Trump says, okay, I'm going to get out of NATO, NATO, right? Out of NATO, which we're part, Northern, then the United States is no longer part of NATO. But if they invade Canada by force, Canada is still part of NATO, with Germany, France, Italy. Article 5 would have to be enforced. Not by force, but with a common purpose. Securing and ensuring freedom in the NORAD NATO complex. Securing and ensuring freedom in the NORAD NATO, and rebuilding, NORAD NATO complex. And yes, all brothers and sisters will come to join us in Quebec, Canada, North America, and Quebec, Canada, and for world peace as well, yes. For world peace as well, That's what we gotta do. Calling all at the Belvedere Conjure Nagma Royal for the new covenant, to implement my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange. And first in Canada first, we have to. The DRT is the only solution, brothers and sisters. I'm going to go into it now. So I can again revision the paradox of NATO, that is part of NATO complex country, and we cannot be really taken by force, in such a matter unless there's an invasion. And we cannot base everything on force and strength, You have to have some sportsmanship, Just like working on certain things we're such a diverse, and now many are struggling financially. Please, a raise is necessary. The UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. My DRT theory, paradoxically, is the only solution. I'm going to now discuss it. Why do I make the statement and pronounce myself that the DRT, debt refusion theory, is the only solution? Well, to the fact that we now pay, of course, 46.5 billion in interest. We pay 46.5 billion in interest. 46.5 billion. dollars we pay on interest on the public debt of Canada. Worst case scenario, I don't want to be too alarmist, but it's a possibility for a black swan event. So there's a possibility for a black swan event. There's a possibility for a black swan event, maybe on the full moon on the 13th, maybe starting tomorrow on the 6th. First Monday of 2025, first Monday of 2025, first Monday of 2025, maybe on the 20th, when Trump gets inaugurated just before he swears in the morning hours, in the news, public financial collapse of Canada, public financial collapse of Canada, the finances of Canada are collapsing, public financial collapse of Canada. My DRT theory, debt refusion theory, or something very similar, very close to my theory, is the only solution. And I have a certain excitement and pride because I struggled due to my neurological divergent mental condition, but I put on the table, paradoxically, the solution. Because when you study geopolitics, and I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, and it's 24/7 with me. Geopolitics, rock and roll, sports, fitness, dancing is my favorite sport, and fitness activity is dancing. That's the trinity. And geopolitics. So when you study geopolitics, you have to have a certain knowledge and awareness of the public finances. So now we're paying 46.5 billion in interest. That's just the amount of interest which we are paying on the public finances of Canada. So in 2020, 2021, we paid 20.3 billion, 20.3, double times 2 would have been 40.6. So in 3 years, due to COVID, of course, the COVID protocols made it, of course, that they had to be implemented certain dimensions, certain programs and protocols and initiatives and programs for the sustenance of the population in terms of what we are dealing with the health crisis during COVID. So yes, but it doubled, more than doubled. So just the interest, debt servicing, in other words, is paying the interest in more than double. So to make a parallel as an individual, let's say on my credit line, I don't have credit cards. I do not own credit cards. I got 10,000 in debt. My credit line, $10,000 in debt on my credit line, 10,000. But I paid my rent for January 2025. Got food for at least 40 days. The only thing I really need is buying coffee. But for the next days, I still probably have for like 7 days max, 7 days. So I stretch it out. The instant coffee, I probably have even a little bit more from the old one that was expired, but I tried it and it's still good after like 5 years, more than 5 years. It was better before. More than 5 years is still good. Anyways, so back to what I was saying, because somebody donated, but it had expired a few years ago. So I opened it, was sealed. So I opened it. Paradoxically, it was still very good, I gotta say. But I thought it wasn't gonna be that good. Anyways, after so many years, so whatever. I guess like some coffee, like wines, But the point is that the debt servicing, the interest we paid, has more than doubled. So putting it interjectionally as an individual, let's say I paid on my debt, public debt, on my private debt, not public, private debt as a private citizen, private individual, correction, I would have paid $156 in 2020, 2021 on my debt. Or the interest that I paid on my debt. And now I would have paid more than double, more than 333 instead of 156. More than 333 today I would have to pay. More than back 3 years ago, 156 times 2, or a little bit more than 2, because it's more than double. It's, let's say, more than 333. That's more than double. I would have, and my salary would have not doubled. My salary would have went by 5% or 10%, let's say 10, 15%, let's say, it would have increased my salary, my income, my salary. 15%. Not a lot of people increase. So that's the problem, you see? That's the problem, because salaries have not increased by that much percentage. That's why when you calculate the percentage of the eggs, cost of the bacon, cost of the bread, cost of the butter, cost of the cheese, cost of the salami, cost of the food, and sometimes the rent, since it has increased by a bigger percentage, way bigger percentage than the salaries. That's the problem. Fundamentally, that's the problem. That's it. That's all, rock and roll. That is the problem. That's the solutions we got to focus on. So now, of course, if my situation would have been I paid $156 in interest, if it more than doubled to 333, I would have had to cut, right? Because it would have been more than double. What am I going to cut? Well, coffee out, or sugar out, or sweets, wafers. I love my wafers. My wafers that I bought, 175 grams for $1. I have videos. You see that those same wafers, which I used to buy during COVID for more than 42 months, 3.5 years at $1, Just a few months ago, more than 7 months ago, they increased to 125. That's 25% increase, 25% increase, 25% increase. That's a quarter. That's exactly what Trump wants to impose the tariffs. So these are mathematics, not number within a percentage. So if that's the correlation to an individual. If an individual would have paid $156 on the interest on the debt, and if it would have been more than double, now that would have been from 156, it would have went in 3 years to 333, while the salary of the individual did only increase by 5, 10% or 15%, but the cost of debt servicing, the interest paid on the debt or the credit line, I only pay 11% interest, 11% interest. I'm for putting 10% maximum, 10% maximum, 10% maximum interest. So by putting that, we're gonna make it on the deal. So this deal would be exactly in the terms of the financial complexities of this financial system that I would have to cut. So I will have to cut from what I expense, right? I have to pay my electricity bill. So I can't, the electricity bill, I cannot cut that. I pay my rent. Otherwise I get a notice you have to vacate in whatever, a month or whatever, right? A month or whatever the case may be, right? I always pay my rent, always pay my rent. 7+ years I live in here, 7+ years, 7+years. And I had jobs I liked. I love working. I especially love working in my main interest and geopolitics and sports fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport, and rock and roll at Trinity. But I don't mind physical labor. I love working with the senior citizens during COVID. I really loved working senior citizens in steel and other things which I love as an artist. I write children's books. I written but not published because I couldn't afford the $500 fee. Couldn't afford the $500 fee. Couldn't afford for the literary agent, I couldn't afford the $500 fee. So that's what it is with that. The DRT, debt refusion is the only solution. There's no other solution but what it is now for the DRT, the debt refusion theory, and that's what we have to implement for the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange unit, the U dot universal exchange unit, the U dot UE, the UE, U dot universal E dot exchange unit. So the DRT stands for debt refusion theory. Paradoxically, I gotta give a shout out to an anonymous friend who, although I had to discard the book because I used it, I read it, I written on it, and that's when the theory, the debt refusion theory, was born. So a few years ago, I think 6-7 years ago, something like that, I got a Christmas gift. 24th of December, I got a Christmas gift, a book. Although it had a conspiracy theory, it was conspiratorial. It had real financial, economic, commercial events from the past: ancient Egyptian, ancient Babylonian, ancient Roman, ancient China, and ancient British Empire. And it correlated mostly. The book was about the 2007-2010 financial crisis, 2007-2010 great financial crisis. Mostly the book focused on the 2007 and the causes thereof, the causes of the great financial cause. And it was a bit conspiratorial, but it had great information and real facts, real economic, financial facts, even historical ones. So that book inspired me paradoxically to write the DRT theory, debt refusion theory, and I'm going to try to explain it simply now. So the debt refusion theory stands for D debt, R refusion, T theory. The debt refusion theory, DRT debt refusion theory. D debt, R refusion, T theory. So my DRT theory also includes monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is exactly the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. The European Union, they destroyed, they annulled their all central banks. The Germans, they got rid of the Deutschmark. The Italians, they got rid of the lira. The lira used to use the lira, right? The French. So they destroyed their all national central banks. They destroyed more than 25 years ago in the 90s their national central banks. So they destroyed and all their national central banks. In Europe, the Europeans, they created a supranational financial institution known as the ECB, the European Central Bank, the ECB, the European Central Bank, the ECB. So that's a new financial institution. So they implemented the monetary integration theory, which my DRT theory, debt refusion theory, in my theory, it's contained in it the monetary integration theory, the monetary integration theory is contained in it. So in the DRT is contained the monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory, which was implemented in the European Union. They destroyed their national central banks. They created a supranational central bank, the ECB, European Central Bank, and they issue a common currency, the euro. So my DRT theory contains that theory. So here I am, and again I'm gonna hydrate a bit because I'm excited to paradoxically do the curse of Asperger's on the table. Comes the DRT with trillions of kisses and pushes of rock and roll with the DRT debt fusion theory, and also the CIT citizen integration theory and the democratic fusion theory. So the DRT, debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. We're going to take all the public and the private debt, including my 10,000, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. All the public and the private debt of Canadians, Canada, the public and the private debt. Canada first, preferably at the same time, just like the establishment of the NHL, National Hockey League, the NBA, and the newly Go PVHL, Professional Women's Hockey League, Go PVHL, Professional Women's Hockey League, Go PVHL, Professional Women's Hockey League, go. I next purchase when I have money, I'm gonna buy not my 49ers, the Niners, I love you, but I'm gonna buy my first expenditures because I already had the old hat for more than 7 years I've been wearing it, so I'm auctioning that hat. 49ers, Niners for the 1 million, gonna give half 50% to my Niners friend, but I wanna purchase the Victoire and dance a lot in it, the Victoire Montreal, Professional Women's Hockey League, and they're very good. I love Professional Women's Hockey League, and Montreal's top #1 now, so go Victoire, go. That's my next expenditure money for the Victoire Professional Women's Hockey League shirt. It's really good hockey. It's as good as the NHL. as good as the NHL, but financially they don't make the same money. But just like dancing is not that, you don't make that much money dancing. Although dancing is my favorite sport. Or dancers, whatever, strippers, but give a discount to the truckers. The DRT, debt refusion theory. DRT is the only solution. You can argue all you want, but something similar to my DRT is the solution. Now, due to this paradox where we paying the interest only has more than doubled, you realize that it's not sustainable. What are we gonna cut? The prisons, the security services gonna cut the all the public workers, those sanitation workers who pick up the garbage, pick up the recycling, pick up the compost. These are public services. We got public-private partnership. The implementation of my DRT, debt refusion theory, requires a public-private partnership, requires a public-private a public-private partnership. The DRT, debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory. The DRT, the debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory. So we're gonna take all the public-private debt and preferably binational at the same time, just like the European unions. They had to do it, the EU together, several countries at the same time. So Canada, US, although Mexico is part of North America. We can make deal with Mexico. I love speaking Spanish. I learned Spanish in the past 7+ years. So here in my casa, in my home, is English, French, Spanish. English, French, Spanish. English, French, Spanish. That's what it is, rock and roll. So Mexico's part of North America. Haiti also. Haiti, Dominican Republic. Cuba is a paradox. Cuba, I got a notation that I got to send, that Cuba supposedly joined BRICS. Cuba, the socialist communist state, island state, supposedly joined BRICS. But Cuba is part of North America. But North America, Canada, US first, extending Mexico, and North America and beyond. It could be beyond, extended beyond. It could be extended beyond, right? So the UE, the creation of the UE, the universal exchange, all the debt, we're going to take my 10,000, yours, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, Canada first with the United States, all the public and the private debt, all that debt, with Canadian debt, we're going to convert it to the United States dollar, because the United States dollar still is the currency of choice for world trade, international business, global commerce, diplomacy and import-export, and foreign affairs and tourism. So we're going to convert it to US dollars. All that money, public-private debt, convert it to US dollar. We're going to add it together with the US, Mexico if they will, other countries of North America, Canada, US first, Canada must. It must. If other countries don't want it, we have to implement it in Canada. All the public-private debt, converted to US dollars. We're going to create a new currency called the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The UE, the universal U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The Universal Exchange Unit. The UE. Based on the value of the US dollar, we're going to set an interest rate level of 10%. It can be below 3.33, 7.18, 4.18, 9.3, 1.56. Below 10%. So that's going to be below 10%. We're going to create the Universal Exchange Unit. All that money is going to be the initial money supply for this new central bank. Create the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, by biometrics, preferably. That's why I'm asking my brother Bill Gates, Scorpio Bill Gates. Scorpio Bill Gates, of course, is a Scorpio, and Joe Biden is a Scorpio until 20th of January. Joe Biden is still president, and of course, so BlackRock and Blackstone are two financial institutions which diverged after 1988/1989 or so. Now it's Blackstone is different than BlackRock. BlackRock is different than Blackstone. BlackRock is another. BlackRock and Blackstone are different now. They used to be merged, but now they're different. They work together on this. We got to work together, public-private partnership, and my dream, the implementation of my DRT theory, debt refusion theory. So we're gonna take all the public debt. That's why it takes another Scorpio, Larry Fink, all those Sagittariuses, Lions, Pisces, all the astrological signs, but I'm just making a mystical perspective that those three aforementioned, Larry Fink, Joe Biden, and Bill Gates are Scorpios, astrological sign. It doesn't matter, Leo, Pisces, Sagittarius. I'm just, for some reason, I made a notation of it, I guess, because I'm also a mystic, because being a philosopher, artist, and athlete, and geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theories. The DRT theory, there's no other solution. You can argue all you want for 44 years, come for 44 years, you can argue, but the DRT, debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, U dot universal E dot exchange in it. The universal exchange in it is the only solution, brothers and sisters. The universal exchange in it. With all that money, we're going to be able to rebuild the mass infrastructure of the North American collective, mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, mass finance tourism for the wellness of the general population, wellness, finance, mass tourism to go travel, see the dams here in Hydro-Quebec and the Bay James, see across, go to Banff, go to the Grand Canyon, go to across US, Canada, Mexico, US, Mexico, and beyond, Haiti, whatever the countries may be, and invest in the rebuilding, of course, of the complex of the North American civilization, of complex finance. Citizens work, rebuild the North American infrastructure, the bridges, build those 44 tunnels, build more hydroelectric dams here in Quebec, which do not pollute, is zero emission, zero pollution, hydroelectricity, Hydro-Quebec go, and our electricity goes to 5 or 6 states now, all the way 1/20th, 1/5, 1/20th, 20% goes to the island of Manhattan, all the way New York, down south. So we gotta build more that, and defense, finance, the building and the establishment of the two public-private partnership finance institutions. My dream, the Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA Dancing Goddess Army, the North American Integrated Dance League, parallel to the Dragon Army. North American North American Citizen Integrated Security and Service Force, North American Citizen Integrated Security and Service Force, the North American Citizen Integrated Security and Service Force, service, consent, hygiene, blah, 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 and of course, based on the new 911 protocol, integration and redemption, second hand. And I'm a nobody. I'm just a piece of dust with these ideas and creative ideas, and my dream manifesting as the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. Let's build the House of the Dragon, Scarlet, Red, Crimson, the Pyramid, a Montreal, and on the Canadian-US border, the Forgotten Goddess GODDSS Temple, and the North American People's Imperial Coliseum. I'm gonna switch to that French because we're in la province Rock Roll LOV. Bienvenue, je suis ici pour le premier dimanche. Je vous chante une chanson de la chanson Rock Roll de votre artiste en tête. Je vais discuter bien sûr un petit proposition de mes propositions puis initiatives. Mais comme toujours, je dois commencer avec la gratitude. Gratitude, j'ai payé mon loyer. Pour le mois de janvier, on est janvier, le 5 le premier dimanche. Demain, lundi, s'en vient le 6 janvier. Demain, c'est le 6 janvier, lundi, je vais faire du nettoyage, du lavage. Puis le 13 s'en vient pour la dernière lune du mois de l'année du dragon, la lune pleine, la pleine lune, le 13 janvier, puis après ça, l'administration de Trump qui s'en vient le 20 janvier. Fait, en tant qu'analyste théoricien en géopolitique, c'est bien sûr la discussion sur proposition d'imposer 25% de tarifs. C'est quand même grave, c'est quand même quelque chose qu'on doit éviter de toute manière, de tout possible, pour faire un compromis, une entente en tant que Nord-Américain, Québécois, Canadien, Nord-Américain, moi-même, qui est neurodivergent avec l'autisme malfonctionnel, l'Asperger's, bien sûr. J'ai ma condition de neurodivergence, que ça fait que j'ai mes intérêts spéciaux que les autres appellent comme obsessifs, mais c'est pas vraiment des obsessions, parce que pour nous, c'est pas une obsession dans le sens du terme négatif, parce que quand on dit obsession, c'est plutôt quelque chose de négatif, mais c'est pas vraiment négatif dans mon sens. C'est juste que depuis plus que 7 ans, j'y travaille, je fais du travail indépendant dans la géopolitique. Puis, bien sûr, je dois dire encore une fois, je répète que j'ai prévu la situation qui se déroule en ce moment en 2019. en octobre-novembre 2019, j'avais prévu qu'il va y avoir une conflagration internationale, soit une troisième guerre mondiale. C'était ça ma prédiction. Puis depuis ce temps-là, j'avais créé mon propre système d'entraînement physique, bien sûr, qui requiert aucun équipement, qui est quand même facile à faire, puis qui augmente le conditionnement physique. C'est pas vraiment pour l'esthétique, c'est pas vraiment pour avoir des beaux muscles, pour la beauté musculaire, mais c'est plus pour l'entretien, puis pour le bien-être de la forme physique, pour être en bonne condition physique. C'est pas vraiment pour l'esthétique, puis ça ne requiert aucun équipement, puis j'ai créé moi-même, j'ai fait moi-même, plus que 372, plus que 372 session de mon propre entraînement physique que j'ai fait moi-même, tu sais, depuis 2019, octobre-novembre, quand je l'ai conçu, quand je l'ai construit, quand je l'ai créé, vraiment, l'entraînement du dragon. Fait qu'aujourd'hui, bien sûr, ce dimanche, je vous encourage à faire de l'entraînement physique. Je peux pas faire la répétition, ça fait tellement du bien pour la santé mentale, aussi avoir la gratitude, parce que là, je vais chanter une chanson de Rock Roll, la gratitude. J'ai payé mon loyer pour le mois de janvier. On est le 5 janvier déjà 2025, premier dimanche de 2025. J'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai du café, j'ai du thé, mais j'ai de la nourriture pour au moins 44 jours quand je fais cette vidéo de nouveau rythme de 40 jours parallèlement, 44 jours dans ma grotte du dragon arc-en-ciel. Je dois saluer les pompiers, amour aux pompiers, aux boulangers, les infirmières, les travailleurs en construction, tous ceux qui sont sur l'autoroute, les camionneurs, tous ceux qui sont bien sûr dans les trains, les chemins de fer. Puis bien sûr, on a eu la nouvelle formation de compagnie de trains, bien sûr, de chemin de fer. La Canadian Pacific, Kansas City, c'est la première fois qu'on peut aller jusqu'au Mexique. C'est Canada, États-Unis, Mexique, une nouvelle compagnie de chemin de fer qui a été constitué, formé nouvelle en 2023, l'année passée. Là, on est en 2025, ça fait plus qu'un an et demi, là, mais c'est une situation qui est, depuis 2023, la réalité qu'on puisse y aller faire de Montréal, du Canada, on peut aller jusqu'au Mexique, bien en dedans, dans le territoire mexicain. Fait en tant que philosophe, artiste, athlète, le dragon arc-en-ciel, je vous chante une petite chanson pour le premier lundi de 2025. Ça en vient avec le travail, je dois faire le nettoyage, puis ouais, à la danse québécoise avec la lumière puis ça danse, noir et blanc, bien arc-en-ciel, et le bleu puis la fleur de lys, que j'en colore en fleur de lys, l'arc-en-ciel, ça donne le rouge, et du vin puis du fromage, baisse ton bébé, le pied puis l'amour, je deviens sourd, si vous ne parlez pas d'amour, ah oui, claque des doigts puis des mains puis des pieds puis ça danse, ensemble, puis avec la tête, ça bouge des fesses, on appelle ça le twerk, ah oui, bien rapide, bien slow, commode, bien commode, puis que ça fasse le bel chrel, on conjugue, avoir et savoir-faire, les coups de tonnerre, coups d'éclair, go Hydro-Québec, bâtissent, construisent d'autres centrales. C'est du rock'n'roll, c'est vraiment mon intérêt spécial, le rock'n'roll, puis j'en fais de la création de chansons de rock'n'roll 24 sur 24, c'est vraiment ça, mais ma trinité, là, la sainte trinité de votre dragon arc-en-ciel, moi, des fois, messieurs, madame, androgyne, pansexuel, mais je fais partie de la communauté, pas seulement de la communauté de la neurodivergence, une minorité, mais aussi de la minorité des LGBTQ, de la communauté LGBTQ. Puis bien sûr, en tant qu'androgyne pansexuel, je vous souhaite faire l'entraînement physique de côte à côte, puis de séance à séance, puis il faut qu'on fasse le tout possible pour ne pas avoir des tarifs. Pour ne pas avoir des tarifs, puis on va trouver une solution, je suis bien content, parce qu'on est nord-américain, je dis souvent, je suis québécois, canadien, nord-américain, personnellement, je ne me considère pas en tant que membre de diaspora, c'est chez nous ici, puis je dois accueillir tous ceux qui viennent nous rejoindre le plus possible, qu'on puisse le plus possible, tous ceux qui nous rejoignent. Puis comme pour le français, hein, on a fait le grand compromis linguistique, qu'est-ce que j'appelle en tant que philosophe, nous ici au Québec, puis en Amérique du Nord, pour avoir l'harmonie puis la paix, puis des fois on se donne des coudes, il y a des tensions, mais en plupart, on doit faire un compromis, puis en tant qu'individu, en tant que Québécois, Canadien, Nord-Américain, il faut que je le fasse moi-même, parce que si je le fais pas moi-même, j'encourage pas les gens, tu sais, il faut que j'encourage les gens aussi. Si je leur dis, mais merci d'avoir fait un effort en français ou de leur conseiller qu'ils regardent un film québécois, mais que ça soit pas juste des épisodes de La Petite Vie dans une fin de semaine, là, qu'ils regardent dans une fin de semaine, mais des films du Québec, la comédie québécoise, puis c'est pas juste les chansons de Céline Dion non plus, mais quand même, ça peut commencer avec ça, tu sais. Puis ça, pour la francisation, je parle, puis l'accueil, puis bien sûr pour la continuité du français au Québec, puis en Amérique du Nord, il faut qu'on le fasse en tant qu'individu, puis c'est un grand compromis qu'on a fait. On continue à se donner, des fois je dis, je suis pas caquiste, je suis pas un membre de la CAQ, mais avec mon oncle Legault, des fois je suis 50-50, 70-30, 90-10, ou que ça soit 2 tiers, 1 tiers, 66,6%, 61-39, ou 44% et plus ou moins, de 44%, quasiment 45%, 44,9%, on va dire, mais que ça soit sur quel sujet, mais c'est sûr que mon oncle Legault, il a une sagesse, une certaine sagesse que moi, j'ai peut-être pas la sagesse, tu sais, dans certaines choses, puis je dois faire l'accommodement, puis faire parallèle mes initiatives, puis le renforcement mutuel. Des fois, ça prend la gauche, la droite. En tant que centriste pro-universel, je suis pour l'Union de l'Amérique du Nord. L'Amérique du Nord, comme parallèlement à l'Union européenne. La Réunion européenne. Puis comme j'ai discuté avec une amie, ça a discuté que si l'entraînement de l'armée canadienne font l'entraînement vis-à-vis d'une potentielle invasion des États-Unis, l'armée des États-Unis pour prendre le Canada par force. C'est un paradoxe parce qu'on fait partie d'une alliance militaire ensemble l'OTAN. Fait que l'article 5, ça dit que s'il y a un pays de l'OTAN qui est envahi par un autre, c'est ça qui est le complexe. Ça, à partir de cette alliance militaire, c'est d'après l'OTAN, l'organisation de l'OTAN, ça c'était que l'Allemagne, la France et l'Italie nous viennent puis nous aident militairement. Fait que c'est ça le paradoxe de cette alliance militaire nommée l'OTAN. Puis moi, dans l'intégrité de philosophe pour l'Amérique du Nord, qu'est-ce que j'appelle le grand collectif de civilisation nord-américain, on est un complexe émergent de civilisation. Les Nord-Américains, on a fait le grand compromis du français, on continue à le faire. Des fois, on se donne sa table. On met sa table, qu'est-ce qu'on peut mettre, mais c'est sûr que c'est quand même des choses plus difficiles des fois. Puis c'est pas justement juste des lois, des législations, ça prend aussi l'effort individuel. En tant que citoyen, moi-même, avec ma neurodivergence, puis en tant que philosophe, tu sais, je dois faire un effort moi-même dans mes interactions sociales qui, des fois, sont moins capables. Tu sais, j'ai les Asperger, les autismes hautement fonctionnels, on est bon dans nos intérêts spéciaux, on est bon dans certaines choses, mais dans d'autres choses, on a bien de la misère. On a bien de la misère dans les interactions sociales, puis, tu sais, les émotions, puis tout ça. Puis c'est pas parce qu'on est méchant ou cruel, puis on n'a pas de compassion, c'est parce qu'on le montre d'une autre manière, puis des fois, les aspects, on a tendance à se rapprocher trop proche, tu sais, l'espace personnel, là, on n'a pas ces choses-là, fait que j'y travaille depuis plus que 44 mois, là, depuis que j'ai accepté, parce que ça fait bien des années qu'on m'a diagnostiqué avec l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, aussi connu comme l'Asperger's. Puis mon ami anonyme, que si je fais 1 million, je donne la moitié, mais de 7 fois plus riche que Céline. Mais j'ai eu ce livre-là, puis je l'ai étudié bien comme il faut là, ces dernières semaines. Puis c'est l'appréciation du syndrome d'Asperger's. Ça s'appelle, c'est en anglais, là, c'est en anglais, l'appréciation du syndrome d'Asperger's. L'appréciation du syndrome de l'Asperger's. Puis c'est quelque chose que je dois faire, la gestion de ces choses-là, bien sûr, de l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, de l'Asperger's, bien sûr, pour en faire de l'Asperger's. Puis c'est pas des symptômes dans le sens d'une maladie, c'est des caractéristiques. Puis comme on a des intérêts obsessifs, mais ces intérêts obsessifs, bien sûr, c'est pas vraiment des intérêts obsessifs dans le sens du monde. Obsessif, ça a plutôt une connotation négative. C'est plus négatif, obsession, mais c'est des intérêts qu'on est super concentré dedans, des intérêts spéciaux. Fait que moi, quand j'étudie, puis j'en fais au quotidien, c'est l'analyse, la théorie de la géopolitique, parce que les événements en géopolitique, ça se passe toujours. C'est constamment des événements en géopolitique qui se produisent, qui se passent à tous les jours. C'est mondial, c'est global, c'est international, c'est local. Maintenant, le premier qui nous concerne le plus en tant que Québécois, Canadiens, Nord-Américains, c'est la nouvelle administration de Trump, puis potentielle imposition des tarifs de 25%. C'est 25%, c'est beaucoup, c'est un quart. C'est un quart. Puis je me mets dans un scénario où notre marché d'exportation, mettons, du sirop d'érable, mettons du bois, ou même l'électricité de l'Hydro-Québec. Parce qu'on exporte à 5, 6, 6 États, je pense, puis un vingtième qui est un cinquième, c'est 20%, un cinquième, c'est 20%, 20%, c'est un cinquième, jusqu'à l'île de Manhattan à New York. L'hydroélectricité de l'Hydro-Québec, ça va, puis je dois les remercier parce que c'est à cause de travail du passé, parce que la civilisation, c'est un privilège. Hein. La civilisation, c'est un privilège. C'est grâce au Hydro-Québec, puis aux travailleurs en construction qui ont bâti, puis construit à bâtir les hébergements, les maisons, c'est les travailleurs en construction, hein, comme les fermiers, puis les fermières, puis les boulangeries, puis tout ça qu'on a en commun, tout le travail de notre économie, puis de nos finances, ça prend une intégrité, mais moi, en tant que neurodivergent, j'ai mes intérêts spéciaux que des autres gens, ils appellent obsessifs, parce que On est tellement concentré, tellement dedans. Moi, c'est ma trinité, c'est 24 sur 24, l'analyse et la théorie en géopolitique. Je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique. L'entraînement physique, le sport. L'entraînement physique que je préfère, ben, c'est la danse. Le sport, mon sport préféré, c'est la danse. Mon sport préféré, c'est la danse. Puis bien sûr, le rock roll, puis c'est ça, j'en fais au quotidien. C'est des choses du quotidien, ça se passe du quotidien, bien sûr, que ça fasse bien sûr ici. Puis c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'on a en commun. C'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'on a en commun. Le collectif non-américain, c'est sûr que dans le cas d'une invasion, ben c'est, comme je dis, par la force, c'est pas possible vraiment parce que à cause de ces paradoxes qu'on fait partie de l'OTAN, l'Organisation transatlantique, puis on a une alliance, en anglais, on appelle le NORAD. On a une alliance militaire pour la défense l'espace. De l'espace et la NORAD, ça fait des années 50. Ça fait depuis 1953, je pense, 1953, cette alliance militaire entre le Canada et les États-Unis, cette alliance militaire entre le Canada et les États-Unis, cette alliance militaire entre le Canada et les États-Unis. Fait que s'il y a ce paradoxe par force, non. Mais en tant qu'égaux, en tant que, tu sais, les complémentaires, la force, le nord puis le sud, le nord puis le sud, le nord puis le sud, qu'on se renforce, c'est possible, ça c'est possible. Puis c'est comme ça que je prévois ça par l'implémentation de ma théorie qui s'appelle la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, qui ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Puis encore une fois, je la discute bien vite maintenant parce que je veux pas mélanger une longue vidéo parce que j'ai commencé à avoir faim puis j'ai de quoi manger, fait que j'ai cuisiné moi-même, fait que rock roll avec ça, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est un paradoxe parce que c'est la seule et unique solution qui peut nous sauver d'où qu'on est rendu aujourd'hui avec les finances publiques. Vu et quart, pourquoi je me prononce, je fais cette déclaration, mais c'est qu'on paye 46,5 milliards d'intérêts, 46,5 milliards d'intérêts, 46,5 milliards d'intérêts. Si on payait en 2020-2021 20,3 milliards, 20,3 fois 2, c'est 40,6, 20,3 fois 2, c'est 40,6, 20,3 fois 2, c'est 40,6. Maintenant, on est rendu 3 ans plus tard à payer 46 milliards. 1 milliard 109 zéros, c'est 46 milliards. 1 milliard 109 zéros. Fait qu'imaginez-vous, en 3 ans, ça a plus que doublé payer l'intérêt sur la dette publique du Canada seulement. C'est possible qu'on ait un événement de Black Swan qu'on appelle en français, que c'est possible qu'il y ait un effondrement des finances publiques. C'est possible qu'il y ait un effondrement des finances publiques. C'est possible qu'il y ait un effondrement des finances publiques dans le scénario le plus difficile, mais j'ai paradoxe. C'est un paradoxe parce que j'ai souffert beaucoup à cause de l'autisme de l'Asperger's, en condition de neurodivergence, mais que mon intérêt spécial, qu'on appelle aussi par obsessif, ça fait que c'est la géopolitique. Puis en géopolitique, on doit savoir avoir un peu de connaissance sur les finances publiques. Là, c'est rendu qu'on paye 46,5 milliards d'intérêts. C'est 20,3 milliards fois 2, c'est 40,6, 46 milliards. Là. C'est tellement d'intérêts qu'on paye sur la dette publique, c'est tellement d'intérêts qu'on paye sur la dette publique. Là. C'est rendu énorme, c'est plus que double. Faisons parallèle, en tant qu'individu, mettez-vous en scène en tant qu'individu. Mettons en 2020-2021, moi-même, j'ai pas de carte de crédit. Moi-même, j'ai pas de carte de crédit, j'ai une ligne de crédit, mais imaginez-vous que je payais 156 d'intérêt en 2020-2021, puis là, il faut que je paye plus que le double, plus que 333. Donc, de 156, c'est allé à 333. Fait que c'est plus que double. Mais si mon salaire, mon revenu n'a pas doublé, là, ça veut dire qu'il va falloir que je coupe. C'est exactement plus le simple, cette simple explication avec les finances publiques. C'est les finances publiques, la sanitation, tout ce qui est public, les prisons, le système de sécurité, le système de sécurité aussi. Ceux qui ramassent les poubelles, merci, les vidanges, le recyclage, le compostage, les services publics, là. C'est coupe. C'est ça. C'est plus que double, là, payer l'intérêt sur la dette. Payer juste l'intérêt sur la dette publique, ça a plus que doublé de 2020-2021. C'est allé de 20,3 milliards. Milliards, c'est en 9 zéros. Ça, c'est 20 000 millions juste l'intérêt, là, imaginez-vous. C'est plus que double. C'est 46,5 milliards. 46,5 milliards. 46,5 milliards. 46,5 milliards. 46,6. 46,5 milliards. C'est 46 000 millions. 46 000 millions. 46 000 millions. Imaginez-vous, là, c'est la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est la seule solution, c'est la solution. Vous pouvez vous ostiner tant que vous voudrez, mais c'est la solution ou quelque chose de parallèle. C'est parallèlement, là, la TRD ou quelque chose qui est semblable à ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution. Donc, je vous l'explique encore une fois, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. La théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est exactement la théorie que les Européens en Europe ont fait l'implémentation des années 90. Les Allemands ils ont détruit leur banque centrale. les Italiens aussi, ils ont fait de la création d'une banque centrale commune supranationale pour bien des pays en Europe en des années 90. La Banque centrale de l'Europe pour la création et mise en marché, mise en circulation de l'euro. L'euro, bien sûr, c'est une circulation, une monnaie qu'ils ont faite, bien sûr. Fait que la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Donc, on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, incluant mon 10 000 à la Banque Royale, j'ai une dette de 10 000 en tant qu'individu citoyen, de 10 000. 10 000 dollars. Donc, ma dette, votre dette de côte à côte, puis c'est Canada premièrement, mais binational, comme la Ligue nationale de hockey, puis la Ligue professionnelle de hockey féminin qui vient de s'établir, bien sûr. Puis avec le Mexique, qui font partie de l'Amérique du Nord, s'ils veulent. Cuba, c'est un paradoxe, mais l'Haïti, la Jamaïque, c'est des pays nord-américains. C'est pour l'Amérique du Nord. Parallèlement, qu'est-ce qu'on fait en Europe? La création d'un passeport commun, puis de cette monnaie commune, puis de la défense, l'intégration pour la défense, de la sécurité, puis le service, puis l'échange commercial, la création de cette nouvelle monnaie par ma TRD, théorie, R, refusion de la dette. Fait que toute la dette publique-privée, on va prendre mon 10 000, le vôtre de côte à côte, on va ramasser, on va faire la conversion dans la devise des États-Unis. On va faire la création de tout l'argent, toute la dette publique-privée, ça va être l'argent en circulation pour une nouvelle monnaie basée sur la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. On va l'appeler l'UI. En anglais, c'est pareil, on ne s'obstinera pas. UI. En anglais, c'est UI. U point unité, E point échange, U point universel. U point unité, E point échange, U point universel. Le UI. U point unité, E point échange, U point universel. La création de l'unité d'échange universelle. Unité d'échange universelle. Le UI. On va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10%. Ça va être 3,33, 1,56, 6,1, 9,3, 7,8. En bas de 10% par principe sur tous les prêts et intérêts après ça. Après l'implémentation. C'est un nouveau genre du 21e siècle. Nouveau système financier, basé sur un partenariat public-privé. Mon rêve, bien sûr, qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse. C'est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé pour la création de deux institutions de partenariat public-privé sur l'armée de la déesse qui danse pour l'environnement, puis la danse pour le plaisir, puis l'armée de sécurité puis de défense intégrée de l'Amérique du Nord, du collectif nord-américain pour la sécurité, service et la défense. Puis avec cet argent-là, on va pouvoir bâtir d'autres centrales de l'Hydro-Québec, rebâtir l'infrastructure, financer les gens en fait d'entraînement physique, financer les gens au tourisme aussi, puis bâtir 44 tunnels, construire 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une guerre thermonucléaire, bien sûr, puis les stacker avec la nourriture qui peut durer quand même beaucoup de temps, 7 ans de préférence. Fait que la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette pour la création de l'unité d'échange universelle, comme je vous l'explique, toute l'argent en circulation au début, ça va être toute la dette publique-privée. C'est la seule solution. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution. Vous pouvez vous obstiner tant que vous voudrez. La théorie de la refusion de la dette, TRD, qui contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Puis je dois saluer un ami anonyme qui m'a donné un livre qui était un peu sur les conspirations, mais quand même, ça disait bien des choses, des événements financiers basés sur la crise de 2007-2010, la grande crise financière. Puis ça m'a inspiré à écrire, puis à composer, puis la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette pour la création de l'unité d'échange universelle. U point, unité, E point échange universel. La création de l'unité d'échange universelle, la création de l'unité d'échange universelle. C'est ça pour la création de l'unité d'échange universelle. Il faut qu'on fasse la TRD pour la création de l'unité d'échange universelle, puis il faut qu'on fasse ensemble ce partenariat public-privé pour le rêve, mon rêve. En tant que philosophe, artiste et athlète, philosophe et artiste qui n'est pas parfait, loin de là, qui est neurodivergent, qui fait partie de la communauté LGBTQ, androgyne, monsieur, madame, 50-50, qui aime la danse. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette pour la création de l'unité d'échange universelle, c'est la seule et unique solution. Puis il faut le faire, il faut qu'on commence. Écoutez, à cause de la COVID, c'est sûr, je l'ai eu, j'ai survécu la COVID, merci la déesse, je dis Dieu déesse, mais quand même, c'est ça la solution. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution. Ben, c'est rendu que, imaginez qu'en tant qu'individu, vous aurez payé 2 fois l'intérêt que vous payez dans 3 ans. C'est sûr qu'à cause de la COVID, ayant eu la COVID, je pensais que j'allais mourir. Je dis souvent, je suis mort ici dans ma grotte, je suis en train de renaître. Mais la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette pour la création de UI, unité d'échange universelle, pour la création de l'unité d'échange universelle, c'est la seule solution. On va rebâtir l'infrastructure de l'Amérique du Nord, bâtir plus de centrales de Québec, bâtir, puis la côte à côte, puis rebâtir l'infrastructure, bien sûr. Puis on va financer les gens à faire l'entraînement physique, on va faire bien du bien commun parce que ça prend un partenariat public-privé. On va pouvoir construire 44 tunnels aussi, basés, inspirés par le village souterrain de Montréal, c'est 44 tunnels à travers l'Amérique du Nord. Dans le cas d'une guerre nucléaire, ça c'est encore un de mes principes théoriques que j'avais composé dans un cas de guerre thermonucléaire pour la continuité du complexe de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord, pour la continuité de la civilisation nord-américaine, qu'on est une civilisation émergente. Donc paradoxe, mais c'est la TRD, théorie T, théorie, R, refusion, D de la dette, qui contient, dans ma théorie, ça contient la théorie d'intégration monétaire, qui est la théorie qu'ils ont fait l'implémentation en Europe, la création de cette banque centrale européenne, bien sûr, pour la création de l'UI, unité d'échange universelle, unité d'échange universelle. C'est ça qu'il faut qu'on fasse. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution, il n'y a pas d'autre solution que cette... que la TRD. C'est un paradoxe, mais c'est ça la solution, c'est ça la solution. On va financer les gens à faire l'entraînement physique, le conditionnement physique, puis on va faire ce partenariat public-privé, puis basé sur mes initiatives, mes protocoles de continuité en philosophe, pour la sécurité, le service, puis la défense, pour la sécurité, le service, puis la défense, puis that's it, that's all, dimanche...